Welcome everyone to Let's Play Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Boy oh boy is this going to be an exciting journey. So, let's hop right in. First and foremost, I need to delete all my previous save files because I had actually just played this game for the first time not too long ago. For a very long time, this was a game that I had never experienced or played, because when I was young and it first came out, I had no idea what Fire Emblem was, nor did I really care. It was kind of a series I grew an appreciation for much later into my life. Still, here we are. Let's start a new game. Now, when you first start the game, you have a bunch of difficulty settings. Now, this is the North American version, which means we have easy difficulty. Easy difficulty is 1 star. It's for novices who want a little helpful advice to get them familiar with the game. There's also normal difficulty, 2 stars, for players who already know their way around the game. This is the standard difficulty setting. And then, of course, we have difficult, for players looking for a serious challenge. Now, these options aren't completely incorrect, but they're not exactly truthful either. Now, in America, we have easy. Over in Japan, they didn't. They had normal, difficult, and another mode called Maniac mode, which, it really makes the title quite truthful. It is for people who want a serious challenge. So, while difficult is our hardest difficulty, consider this just the hard mode and not the very hard mode. So, I overall think having easy, normal, and then effectively hard is much better than having normal, hard, and very hard. Overall, I think difficult gives a very fair challenge with the game that makes it a lot more interesting than if you were to just breeze through it on normal, or especially on easy. So, we're going to be playing on difficult. This is going to lead to some very awful headaches for me later on, but that'll be okay. Now, because I have beaten the game, we have the level up methods. Random. When characters increase in level, their stats are improved randomly. This is how the game is supposed to be played. When you first play this game and have no cleared save data, you will not get these options. You will be thrown into the game with random selected, and that's all there is to it. You don't got to think about it. But for those who have beaten the game, when characters increase in level, their stat improvement is based on that unit's strengths. Basically, this mode makes it so that based on the units that you fight, the weapons you use, how you do a whole bunch of different things, it actually is mathematically adding what stat a level will give to a unit. It's basically random, just you can game it a lot more if you really know what you're doing. So, we're gonna play on random.
Well, Ike, you had enough?
Dad! Ike!
Oh, missed.
Ike? Oh no!
Missed that song.
Ah, you're up. About time.
Prologue, Mercenaries. Are you all right? Yeah, I'll be fine. So, the sleeping prince awakens. Father, I can't believe you. I know those are practice swords, but they're still heavy. You have no right to be so rough on Ike. If this is too much for the boy, he'll never make it as a mercenary. But, Mist, you don't have to worry. I told you, I'm fine. Ha! You'd better be. Now, grab your sword and get ready. What? Don't tell me you're going at it again. But, just until I land a single blow. I'm not giving up until I can get one good hit in on Father. I like your resolve, Ike, but it takes more than a strong will to... Huh? Uh-huh, I knew I'd find you here. Hi, Boyd. What brings you here? Nothing special. You said you were going to get the boss, but you never came back. I got picked to check up on you. Oh, sorry. I got caught up with Ike and my father. It's nothing. Besides, I figured I'd get a good laugh watching Ike get worked over by the boss. You look fine. What happened? Nothing at all. I'm sorry to disappoint you. You just missed it. Just a minute ago, he was out cold. Missed. Sorry. You came at just the right time, Boyd. You can be Ike's sparring partner. What? Me? I'm beginning to think it would be better if he sparred with someone closer to his own skill. I understand. Thanks for your help, Boyd. I don't know about this closer to his skill business, but I'm ready. All right, I'm ready for you. Let's go. Player phase. So, welcome to the wonderful world of Fire Emblem. This is a heavy tactics-based game featuring grid movement, units, stats, and all sorts of things. There's builds, the type, weapon levels, skills, heck, you name it, this game's got it. It's a pretty intense thing, and because we are playing on difficult, they're not going to explain a thing to you. But that's what I'm here for. So, first and foremost, let's move our cursor off of Ike and press the A button. Here, you can pull up the menu. With the unit button, you can see all of your units at a glance. Their name, their class, levels, their experience points, their HP, and their max. It's pretty darn useful. You can also scroll to see their stats, their equipment, their attack, their hit rate, their avoid rate, their critical chance, their dodge chance, the range they have, their movement, all sorts of different things. Let me tell you, this game is no slouch on giving you information, so never be afraid to check. Now, there's also the guide. This will teach you about the game. If you don't know things, well, this is where you can always come to learn. So, the prologue. Normally, the game would teach you about movement range, direct combat, the shove command, leveling up, skills, and using items. Something I really like about the guide is that it sorts it by chapters. Basically, on every different chapter, you would find all these different mechanics. So, I think it's pretty darn cool that they let you see all that at a glance. Otherwise, there's the classic options button. Now, there's going to be some things in here we're going to change. Animations, we definitely want on. That's half the fun of the game, isn't it? Seeing your units fight? It's pretty cool. The combat camera, we'll leave on normal. Game speed, we're setting this to fast. If you keep this on normal, turns and chapters are going to take forever. Save yourself a headache. Now, for message speed, I like this being on fast. Max is way too fast. Fast, I think, is nice. Otherwise, we have grid thickness. I like to bump this up just a bit, just so I can really see the grid and understand what I'm working with. There's also the terrain/goal. This is useful, so we'll leave it on. There's also, of course, the unit window, which again, we'll leave on. The combat window. This is what's displayed when you look at an enemy to fight them. Basically, with simple, it does the math for you. With detailed, you gotta do all sorts of math, so we're just gonna leave it on simple. I'll explain what math it is doing, but trust me, simple's the way to go. There's also the help window, which, I mean, it's pretty stock standard. We'll just leave it on. The guide window, same idea. There's also the C-stick. You can change the axes if you want. There's also screen settings, so if you're playing it on an older monitor, you can make the screen a little more to the left, right, change the brightness, you name it, it's pretty darn useful. There's also the auto cursor, which will set the cursor on Ike. Auto end turns once you've used all your units. I feel it's pretty nice. Unit facing, which I never found a reason to turn on or off. It's kind of just a fun little thing, so do what you like. Obviously, we want message sounds. We're, of course, playing with stereo audio. Music, sound effects, those can stay on. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of rumble in games, but I actually really like it in this game. Whenever a unit hits, your controller rumbles. So if you feel that rumble, you know you landed a hit, or conversely, got hit. It's kind of a really nice feedback setting that I think they used really well in this game. There's also the bonus EXP display. This is something we'll get into a bit later. For now, don't worry about it. So, otherwise, now that we're done with the options, you can suspend the game, go back to the title, and basically treat this like a temporary checkpoint. This does not save your game, but it will allow you to step away should you need to. It's useful. Then there's also end the turn. We certainly don't want to do that. So, here's our unit, Ike. This is the main character of the game. We're going to be using him on every single map, so get used to seeing him. He's a pretty well-rounded unit. He's got plenty of strength, decent skill, pretty good speed, pretty good luck, decent defense, and no res. That'll be a common theme throughout the game. Not a lot of units gain resistance. So, that's alright. Otherwise, over here is our enemy, Boyd. Now, if we take a look, he's got pretty okay stats, nothing crazy. He's not quite as good as Ike, but that's alright. He otherwise has some interesting things. He has a skill, Discipline. This allows this unit to control strength when training. Kinda cool. Otherwise, there's this thing called biorhythm. We'll get into this later, but for now, this is the unit's biorhythm. When the marker is high, the unit performs better. When it's low, the unit suffers penalties. Basically, the higher it is, the better. And that's pretty much the basics. Otherwise, you can zoom the camera in and out with the left shoulder button. Pretty useful. If you press A on an enemy, you can mark where their effective damage range is. So, say we didn't want to get hit, we would press A on Ike and move him out. Now, these blue squares are where you can move. So, as you can see, you can move a pretty fair distance. One thing this game is going to do is give you some pretty darn big maps. So don't be surprised if you're going to be moving a lot, and that might just be some of your unit's turns. It's not a terrible thing, but keep it in mind. Now, lastly, if you don't want to keep the damage range on, which I love that this game shows the units that's actually being displayed. I think that's super nice. Some of the older games don't do this, other ones do. It's just a nice thing. If you want to turn it off, press B. Pretty simple. Otherwise, if you press start, you can view the entire map. Not only that, you can see how many turns you've used, the total funds you have, your allied units, and your enemy units. You can also press A and see your victory conditions. In order for us to beat the prologue, we have to defeat the boss. However, we lose the map if Ike dies. So, pretty straightforward. Now, let's get to combat. Simply move Ike right next to Boyd, and then you get this menu. This is the unit menu. You can attack, where you choose your weapon, gives you a whole bunch of different stats, and then it lets you swing at an enemy. Pretty simple. Otherwise, there's the shove command, which, if your, I believe, build is equal to or higher than a unit's, you can shove them a space. This is a mechanic that isn't really in many other Fire Emblem games, and it's kind of interesting that it shows up here. It's a very versatile thing that you shouldn't discount. Now, you also have items, which, as you can see, we only have the trainer sword. It's an E rank sword with 6 might, 150% chance to hit, 0 critical chance, 3 weight, and 1 range. It's a sword used for training, deals no real damage, and it does not wear down with use. So that's basically the game saying, hey, you can't really mess this up. Now, later on, weapons will have durability, which you're going to have to keep track of. The first few chapters in this game are kind of brutal with that, so keep it in mind. Otherwise, another big thing to look at while we're on this screen is the weapon triangle over to the right. Swords have an advantage on axes. Axes have an advantage on lances, and lances have an advantage on swords. Basically, match them up and you'll do better. Though, raw stats will make the difference. Just because you're using a sword against a lance doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be penalized completely. Sure, you may not be as accurate, but you can still hit them and actually deal some damage, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, let's get on with the show. So, here's our combat window. As you can see, it shows both Ike's HP and Boyd's HP. It shows your might, your hit rate, and your crit rate. Now, should we go and turn on the detailed window, just for prosperity's sake, because I mentioned this and why I'm not a huge fan of it, let's show what that looks like instead. Yeah, it's a little bit more. Basically, what Simple does is it takes into account your defense and just applies it. So, in this case, we would have to take, let's see, Ike does 12 damage, minus 3 for 9. Boyd does 13 damage, minus Ike's 5, etc. The same is true with the AS down at the bottom, though it's kind of just, dodge and evasion. So, that's why overall, I like leaving the window on Simple. It just saves you math and a headache. So, let's actually swing. When you fight, you get a cool combat animation. You can do it. Boyd's got nothing. Take him out. Nothing? I don't have nothing. I mean, I have... So yeah, you get a pretty darn cool combat animation. It also shows you experience gained, and then the Eternal Pass, because that was the only unit we had. Haha, I'm not done yet. We're just getting started. So, now it's his turn to swing. Whew, close fight, but we're all good. We gain a little bit more EXP for actually beating the unit. And that's the basics. That wasn't too bad. Boyd, you're such a loser. Shut your trap. Good work, Boyd. That's enough. Oh, all right. Your swordsmanship was decent enough, Ike. Don't forget how it felt. It won't always be this easy. I know. Now that you're done warming up, it's time for you to face me again. I was hoping you'd say that. But first, Mist. Right here. Here you go, Ike. It's a vulnerary. We receive a vulnerary. I'd recommend using it now before you fight Father. Last time, he knocked you silly. Alright, so let's go take a look at the item we just received. A Vulnerary. We have 3 of 3. It's a potion that restores 10 HP when consumed. Now, should you use this, it will end your turn, so be careful of that. There are exceptions later in the game though, so keep it in mind. I'll bring them up once they become pertinent. For now though, let's see how Ike would do against Greil. Yeah, it's not great. If we swing now, Ike's going to be beaten and we'll fail the map. So, I wouldn't recommend it. I would move Ike next to Greil, use your Vulnerary, and that's your turn. Pretty easy. Always take time to heal your wounds in a battle, even small ones. By the time you think you're in trouble, it's probably too late. Don't get into that situation. He's certainly not wrong. So now, he'll deal 6 damage. If we attack him now, we'll go down a bit of HP, but we know that we can take 1 more hit because we have 13. This is another big strategy element of this game. This game features both player phase and enemy phase. Some Fire Emblems revolve around the player phase a lot more than the enemy phase. This is a rare game where you're going to be playing around the enemy phase. Basically, a lot of your units in this game shouldn't spend most of their turns attacking because you're going to be putting them at severe risk if you swing and then get hit and then they swing on you next turn. Though, we know in this case, we're totally safe. At most, he will deal 12 damage by hitting us on the retaliation and then on his turn. There's no crit chance, so there's nothing to worry about. Let's do it. Give it your all. Man, how cool. And look at all that EXP. Come on, boy. You gonna give me a challenge this time around? Get ready, Ike. Here I come. So, we did the math. We know we should be just fine. And if you notice, Greil just did basically what I warned against. He swung. And on our turn, we have enough damage to beat him. So, there's no point to heal again. Just swing and win. Ugh. And there you go. You beat the prologue. Pretty simple, huh? And of course, Ike will gain a level. Gained an HP, a magic, a defense, and a resistance. Huh. Interesting. Ike, you were great. Father, you were holding back, weren't you? What? Is that true? If you can tell the difference, that means you're improving. You know, I wasn't really giving it my all either. That is such a lie. Bah. So, Father, does that mean you finally admit that I'm ready? What, to join the company? To take on a job? Yeah, I mean, Boyd's already out there on the battlefield. I'm ready. I'm tired of being a trainee. Listen, the difference between you and me is that I'm a professional. A professional who just got beat. That was just random chance. Random chance. You've got a point, Ike. All right, tomorrow will be your first day as a full-fledged mercenary. Really? But if I think it's too much, you're back to trainee status. You'd better work hard. No problem. Watch. I'll catch up to everyone in no time. We'll see. We'd better be heading back to the fort. Everyone's waiting. And once you finish the map, you get the chance to save the game. So, there we go. Chapter 1. The Battle Begins.
Good morning, Ike. Today's your first day as a professional soldier, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm ready to go.
What you are is late. The others were suited up and ready to at the break of dawn.
Sorry, I'll get up earlier from now on. So, what's my first job?
I'm talking with Titania right now. Wait outside until we're done.
Yes, sir.
Very well, Commander Greil. Shall we continue?
You were telling me about some bandits that needed taken care of, weren't you?
Correct. The request comes from a nearby village. According to our reports, the bandits are not all that strong. I think it best if I ride out and take a look. I plan on taking Oscar and Boyd along with me.
Just the brothers? Go ahead and add Ike to your team. Shannon, Gotchery, and I can handle the other two jobs easily enough. Titania, I'm leaving Ike in your care. I'm trusting you to show him the ropes.
Understood, Commander. Come on, Ike. Let's get you set up.
All right, my first job. Captain Titania, preparations are complete, and I'm ready to go.
Impeccable timing. It's nice to know we can always count on you to be at the ready, Oscar.
Don't forget about me. I'm ready for action.
Is that so, Boyd? That's a surprise.
Not today it isn't. As of today, I'm going to be the absolute model of perfection. I need to set a good example for Ike. I'll take your word for it. Your first campaign at last. I know you've wanted this for a while. Are you nervous, Ike? I think I was more nervous last night. I could hardly sleep. This morning, I'm feeling pretty good. It's the calm before the storm. You should try to relax. You're not going to be out there alone. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Everyone ready? Let's go. This is the village of Chaldea. The bandits are few, but we mustn't get careless. Our goal is to take out the bandit leader in front of the large building and then secure that building.
Ike, listen up. All this stuff is old news to me, but I can give a rookie like you a few tips. First off, don't let yourself get worked up and jump out in front of everyone. You'll just end up getting hurt. Don't try to do too much, Ike. When things get dangerous, you can and should rely on us. As long as you watch how the enemy moves carefully, you'll be fine. Think of this as a training mission. I'll do that. Oscar, Boyd, thanks for your help. Don't mention it. Just sit back and watch how a professional handles things.
Enough chit-chat, you three. We've got work to do.
And here we are on our first real map. As you can see, there's a lot more going on here than the beginning map. And we've got 3 new units to boot along with Ike. As you notice, he starts with 4 iron swords. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Most of these iron swords are probably going to just get thrown away. There aren't a lot of units in the early game who can actually use swords. And to be honest, these are, I believe, the product of a glitch. I think Ike is only supposed to start with 1 or maybe 2 swords, but for whatever reason, he has 4. So don't be worried if you have to throw some of them away to make room for better gear. Otherwise, we have Oscar, who comes with some interesting items, the Iron Lance, a vulnerary, and an item that you only receive on repeat playthroughs once you've beaten the game. This is the Paladin Band, an armlet that, when equipped, alters the direction of a level upgrade. It contains the essence of a paladin. Now, for the sake of this playthrough, I am not going to be using any of these. In fact, I'm going to strictly be throwing them away. Namely, because if you played this game for the first time, you won't have these. So I don't want to give myself an unfair advantage, and I wanted to bring them up. Now, otherwise, we can see Oscar has fairly good stats. Good strength, good skill, really phenomenal speed, and awesome defense. He's got 8 movement and a weight of 33. That's because he's a Lance Knight. He's a Cavalier. Now, as you can see, he uses lances. Now, the only thing that's unfortunate, his biorhythm is down. This means that he has a higher chance of getting hit and missing. That's basically all biorhythm does, so don't worry about it too much. He'll still perform just fine. Now, with Titania, she is a paladin, and as you can see, her stats are beyond amazing for this point in the game. She has more move than anyone's going to have for a very long time, and she is basically going to be a god unit for the entirety of the early game. Seriously, you can unequip her and have her just tank hits, and she will be completely fine. In fact, that's my game plan. She's not going to be doing any fighting. So, for the point of our playthrough, consider her an iron wall. She is awesome. Otherwise, Boyd. Kind of a similar idea to Oscar. He starts with the fighter band, which will be unequipping. He has good strength, not great skill, okay speed, and some fine defense. Boyd is a unit that, frankly, I'm not a huge fan of. He can do really good damage, but unfortunately, he suffers from a skill called Tempest. This doubles his biorhythm effects, meaning if his biorhythm is doing good, he gets really good. If he's doing bad, he becomes next to unusable. This is paired with the fact that axe weapons, while they have high might, they usually have the lowest hit rate out of any weapons in the game. Combine this with his low skill, Boyd is kind of not great. I'm not a big fan of him. So, for the purpose of our playthrough, consider Ike and Oscar, 2 permanent party members that we're going to want to pump all of our EXP into. Titania will passively gain it, and sure, we still need to use Boyd for a fair bit of the game, so don't slouch on him, but don't be worried if someone else comes along and Boyd just isn't performing. There'll be a chance to replace him later, though don't go letting him die either. So, for the purpose of our playthrough, let's take a look here. Bandits, they're all pretty stock standard. If you notice, they're almost all going to use axes or swords. Not a one of them is going to use a lance. This means that Ike will at worst be doing neutral damage to them. So, it's a pretty good map. Now, I would suggest throwing Ike here, moving Oscar up here, of course going into items, dropping the Paladin Band because we just simply do not need it, waiting. I would then have Boyd come over here, drop his Fighter Band because again, we're not supposed to have it, and let's visit this house.
You're with the mercenaries, right? Thank you for coming. We've heard a lot about you. Here, take this weapon. We're farmers, not fighters. Maybe you'll get some use from it.
So yeah, you get a steel sword, which honestly is a phenomenal weapon. It has high weight, which isn't great, and its hit rate isn't good. Its might, though, is really something else. Stronger weapons are basically going to play the difference of beating an enemy or not. So we're going to want to make sure to get that to Ike as quick as we can. Now, as you can see, there are 3 other villages that can be visited. That is going to be Titania's job. So we're going to send her in. Now, here's the other big thing I'm going to make sure to do. Unequip her weapon. If you do not do this, she is going to be taking so much experience from everybody else, it's not even funny. Because she's a promoted unit, she's going to gain significantly less EXP than anyone else is going to gain. So just let her tank and do map objectives for now. In a pinch, you can still use her to fight, and let me tell you, she is a beast. But for now, you really need to make sure Ike and Oscar are getting plenty of experience. Don't slouch on Boyd, but Ike and Oscar are especially important. Ike being priority 1.
What's going on out there? Is that some sort of army? Pah! Bunch of mercenaries looking for the next meal. The villagers must have hired them. Listen up, lads. Hurt them and hurt them bad. We let this bunch live, and we'll have hordes of hired swords hounding us the rest of our days. It's those fool villagers. They think they can buy a bunch of sellswords and chase us away. It ain't gonna work out how they wanted. All they get for their trouble's a bunch of ruined houses. Tear them down, boys. That'll teach them.
So yeah, that house is unvisitable. Basically, the game intends for that guy to burn that house down, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's trying to teach you that, hey, you need to get to him quick. Otherwise, time for the fighting, So far, so good. I positioned Ike where I did just so that way he'd only take 2 attacks and do pretty well. As you can see, he got them nice and low. This means Oscar, and heck, even Boyd if you wanted, can hopefully follow up and finish them off. Ike is going to be gaining a lot of his levels through weakening enemy units and then letting others finish them off, and vice versa. Titania is a really great option for making sure other units get EXP. You just gotta make sure she doesn't beat them.
Since those bandits took over, we can't even sleep at night. Please, help us save our village. Here, my mother left me this. I hope it serves you well.
And we receive a Seraph robe. Now, notice how Titania can move again. This is a special ability every mounted unit in the game has, called Canto. Canto allows a unit to move again after performing any action so long as they have movement left. It's a 1-to-1 ability, and man, is it phenomenal. We're going to be abusing that throughout most of the game. Now, here we have some very weakened villagers and a weakened Ike. This is where we're going to let Oscar hopefully poke one and beat him. And then the idea is to have Ike heal up with a vulnerary so he can basically tank some more. Most of the time, enemies are going to avoid units who have better chances than another unit they could target. So let's do some quick math here. Ike will take 6, and Ike will take 6. So 12 damage. As long as we use our vulnerary, we should be fine. There we go. Ike is now primed to take some more damage. This is also where we're going to use the trade command. Remember that nice steel sword we got? Let's give some of Ike's swords over to Boyd and give the steel sword over to Ike. Boyd can't use swords because he's exclusively an axe fighter, just the same way that Ike is exclusively a sword fighter. In this game, axes are really phenomenal for something later on. At the start, though, they're kind of hard to use, so be a bit careful. Still, looks good to me.
My work here is done. This house is total. Time to move on to bigger things. Now, I smash me some mercenaries.
Now, ideally, Ike will dodge and then finish the enemy off. Don't count on dodging to always work, but when it does, it's pretty nice. Hopefully we get a nice level. Beautiful. Some strength and skill. Ideally, you want to gain strength, speed, defense, skill, and HP on just about every single unit in the game. Oh! And there's Ike hitting a critical. Didn't expect to see that so soon, but hey, saves us some weapon durability. Very nice. But like I was saying, any physical unit, and really just any unit in the game, kinda wants every single stat. There's no such thing as a bad level up. Sure, there will be times where a unit doesn't level up how you need, and they might miss a level of strength a couple times, which is going to hurt. But there'll be a way to game their levels later on, so don't worry too much about this. And worst case, if a unit really is underperforming, there will be others later on that can replace them, so don't worry too much. Still, try to make sure you're being fair to most of your units. Alright, let's see here. Titania's surrounded. This is where we gotta be a little careful. You have 5 movement, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he could hit here and here. I want to set this up so that ideally we can have Ike hit another guy, and see, Ike will do 9 times 2 there. When your speed is, I believe, 5 points higher than an enemy's, you will double them. This is a very important mechanic, and it's why speed is one of the most important stats in the game. It allows you to do double damage and to not take double damage. So you really need to make sure you're paying attention to this. Speed and how it's calculated is a whole thing. Basically, not only is the speed stat used, the weight of a weapon and the strength of a unit is going to determine your speed. Effectively, I believe because this is 7 weight and Ike has 6 strength, his weapon affects his speed negatively by 1 point. So effectively, Ike has 6 speed right now. This bandit has a total of, let's see, 10 weight minus 5, so he has negative some odd amount of speed. You get the idea. It's a whole thing with math, and don't be too worried if you don't understand it completely. So for instance, if we attack with the steel sword, we won't be able to double him. So, in our case, it's actually much more efficient to use the weaker iron sword because we double. Now, you might notice that's going to put Ike in danger. And technically, he'd still be in danger even if we stopped and healed with the vulnerary, because if he crits an enemy after taking several attacks, he's going to allow more enemies in to hit him. So you gotta be careful. What I think I want to do is basically just keep up this wall right here. So we're going to move Titania down here. And actually, we'll move her here so that way she can trade with Ike. We're going to give him the Seraph Robe, which, by the way, is a magic item that increases the user's maximum HP. I believe this is a 7-point increase, so it's pretty darn good. Otherwise, we are then going to move her here next to Ike. And this way, Ike can basically just sit here and take damage. But I want to take this turn to use the Seraph Robe. So we'll increase his max HP. He now has 27, much more comparable to everyone else. And we're going to let Boyd do some tanking. Otherwise, end turn and things should go pretty well. Now, if you notice, the sword unit's going for Boyd because he has an advantage. Boyd still dealt some pretty good damage. Got him nice and weak, too. Obviously, Titania is going to be tanking hits. So, she's really not going to be dealing damage, but that's fine. Oh, she re-equipped her weapon. Whoopsies. So, hey, there's a fun thing. When you trade, you gotta unequip your weapons again. Well, she's going to get 2 kills, which I did not intend for. That's really bad. Whoops. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter, but she still shouldn't have been doing that combat because that's a lot of experience Ike and everyone else just lost out on. Still, don't worry about it too much. Let's unequip that. There we go. Goodness. Oh, that's a little embarrassing, but it's okay. So let's take a look here. Iron sword and iron axe. let's move Boyd. Let's see. Ike will beat him, and we know that other guy did 6. So let's go for it. Ike scores a kill. Beautiful. And then we should be able to move Oscar. Well, we can probably just keep him right where he is. Should be fine. Call it good. And now if you notice, he's going for Titania. That's because she has no weapon, and there's no risk for him. If you notice, she just gained the same amount of EXP for an enemy missing, not even hitting or damaging her, for missing, that she just gained for beating enemies. This is why early on, there is no point to have her ever fight. So, just let her tank. Otherwise, let's see here, 9 times 2. Let's be a little careful here. I think I want Oscar to hit this guy, because he's got plenty of HP and defense. So I really am not going to have to worry about. Beautiful. That'll get him a little more EXP. And then let's move him up here. Hopefully to draw that sword guy. Move Ike here. And he'll do exactly enough damage to beat this bandit. Beautiful. Worst case, too, if Ike didn't gain that strength level, I could have swapped to the steel sword, and that would have done the job pretty much just as well. Otherwise, we can move Titania up, and we'll move Boyd up. Should be fine. Yeah, keep hitting Titania. It's fine. Now, basically, I'm just going to be leading this bandit around, so that way when Ike is a little more healed, he'll be able to take him on, no problem. This whole first chapter, I would just use it to give Ike as much EXP as possible. You can still give Boyd and Oscar some EXP, but there will be maps later on that are much more beneficial for them to level up off of. Otherwise, let's move Titania in front of a boss. That way, she can gain EXP, and he can't move. Let's then let Ike... First, actually, let's check this guy. He will do 7 damage. So long as Ike doesn't get hit by this guy, which he shouldn't, he'll be just fine. Very beautiful. I don't know why I tried to put like an accent on beautiful there, but oh well. Ooh, and that gets him right next to a level. Awesome. And we get another iron sword. That's another reason I want to give Boyd the other one, is because if you pick up a weapon at this point in the game and you do not have inventory space for it, you'll have to throw something away. You'll want to try to avoid that as much as you can. So let's have Oscar take one of his swords, ideally. And I almost want to give him another one of his swords too, just to be careful. Let's do it. That'll make me feel a lot better. And then... do I want Boyd to fight this guy? I guess I could. Yeah, 9. Looks fine to me. We'll put Boyd there. Looks good. Alright. Alright, not bad, not bad. Boyd earning his keep. Boss will swing on Titania. And usually they'll have some dialogue when you fight him for the first time. You looking for something, fool? You looking for a fight? Hee hee, you came to the right place. I'll give you a tussle. Well, we can try, but Titania doesn't really care. So, good luck. Otherwise, Ike, you'll beat him. So what I think I want to do is move Titania over here. Let's move Ike right here. And let's see how much damage the boss does. 7. Okay, that's not bad. So, we'll have Ike use the rest of his vulnerary. Just like so. Beautiful. And then let's move Boyd over here and Oscar right there. That way Ike will only be taking damage from the boss and vice versa. Should be pretty good. Boyd should be fine here. He'll get a little low, but he'll earn himself a kill. That's A-okay. Get him some EXP for later. Hey, you're nothing but a boy. Well, every brat needs a beating now and then. Are you ready for it?
Not today. If you want to run away, now's your chance.
Imagine that, you sassing me. Don't that beat all? Well, you'd be a little surprised there, boss. Ike, he can throw it back. And he can gain a level. Hopefully it's decent. Speed, defense, and res. Very nice. A wonderful defensive level. I would have liked some HP, but that's okay. Here's the question. Do I want Oscar to try to gain a level? I think so. So, that being the case, let's have Boyd actually trade Ike a vulnerary, and then have Ike also trade his vulnerary. Actually, no, we'll leave him. We'll just end turn. I want Boyd's vulnerary, though, just for the future. Because frankly, he's not going to be using it the rest of this map. He'll get a hit. Ike will smack him up, get him nice and low. Gain a fair bit of EXP. And then, here's the only issue. I believe, what is our condition for this map? Seize. So, in order to beat this map, Ike needs to get onto that tile. Unfortunately, with how I set it up, that can't happen this turn. So, we're going to have Oscar hopefully beat him, and then next turn, Ike will seize, and that should be a pretty fairly simple map. Ugh, I'm meant for better than this. I don't want to die here. Well, sorry, guy. Better luck next time. And look at all that EXP. Beautiful. And we get an iron axe. Very useful. I think I want Boyd to take that. So let's do this. Let's give Titania an iron axe and the iron sword, like so. And then let's have Boyd trade with her again, just like that. Now next turn, we'll seize and end the map. Pretty good, huh?
That's the end of it. Ike, are you all right? Yeah, I'll be fine. You know, you surprised me to think that you've come so far. Look at my father, though. I've still got such a long way to go. There's nothing you can do about that. After all, Commander Greil is... Huh? What about my father? Oh, nothing. Nothing. Now I'm really curious. Don't worry. You'll learn all about it someday.
Hey, Ike, that wasn't bad for your first battle. Not as flashy as my first time, though. Yeah, you were a real standout. I'll never forget the sight of you so keyed up you broke your own axe. Oscar, dang it, you didn't have to bring that up.
Anyway, Ike, congrats on finishing your first mission. Welcome to the group. Everyone's all right? Then let's get going. I'm sure Mist has a nice hot meal waiting for us.
And that's the end of Chapter 1. Pretty simple. So, next time we play Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, we'll start Chapter 2. As always, I'm Brad. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.